Welcome to the show, John Ventimiglia. How's it going?
Oh, good. How you doing? Nice to be
Yeah,
here.
pretty
Yeah.
good, yeah. So how did you first get the part as Artie Bucco?
Well, I'm a New York actor, and you know, uh, I guess in the early '90s, independent film was kind of making a splash in New York, and just getting some small work on some of those films led me to casting directors that led me to auditions. I'll tell you, Michael Imperioli and I started out in acting school together around the same time. I was 19 and he was 17 years old. And yeah, I don't remember where we were hanging out somewhere, maybe a coffee shop or something. He said, "Hey man, I gotta go. I got an audition." He said, "Hey John, you'd be great for this thing, you should go in on it." I'm not SAG yet. I'm not Screen Actors Guild. I wasn't unionized. I wasn't in the union yet because I hadn't done anything that was unionized. And he said, "Well, just why don't you just come anyway?" So I went in, and when they asked, who I was, and they what time my audition was, and they said, "Oh, we don't see you here," and I looked at the clock, and I was like, "Hey, can I? Is there a phone I can call my agent?" And she's like, "Don't worry about it. You just." And I got the part, and I ended up with working with Treat Williams, which I guess he's an old time actor now, but he was a big deal in the '70s and the '80s, I guess, but the '70s, yeah. Um, it was, yeah. So that's how I got through Michael. And so this casting director, Georgianne Walken and Sheila Jaffe, her partner, brought in everyone they knew from their New Yorker that might be right, for The Sopranos. Nobody had any idea, like, like you never, well, you usually have a pretty strong idea. I thought it was a sitcom. I didn't know what it was going to be. Um, I went in for Tony first, and then Paulie Walnuts, and then I ended up with Artie Bucco. And I didn't. But I read the part of Tony with a lot of people that were auditioning, like the mothers, Judith Molina and Nancy Marchand were auditioning, the kids, um, just me and Edie when it was her turn. When David wanted to see her read. Um, yeah. So a lot of New York history in there. Like I knew Vincent Pastore before. Michael and I went to class together. Still great friends. And yeah, I knew Edie before. I knew Edie Falco from before. We were working out some projects. Improvising, trying to come up with stuff. It was a pretty vibrant scene back then.
Yeah, and as you say, all the actors were from a similar pool, weren't they?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, that's the idea. So the only person that lived on the West Coast was Stephen Sharippa, Bobby Bacala, and he was in Vegas. David Proval has been on the West Coast, but he's a New Yorker, and everybody was New York, you know. And really, there were no real studios at the time. Now there's some. They've built some really great ones. But so we were in a place called Silver Cup Studios. It used to be a bread factory, an old bread factory, and it was great. Like you'd get up, stand in the front door on the sidewalk, and there'd just be the overpass, of the highway going around, snaking around. It's just so New York. You see the old neon sign that said, Silver Cup Bread, bread company. Um, yeah, it was that's where we did all our stuff, except we're on location in New Jersey. But man, it was a lot of fun.
And with a lot of the locations, they were real locations as well, weren't they?
I mean, they changed the names, but yeah, the places in the Soprano house was an actual house. The restaurant, my restaurant, Artie's restaurant in the first season was an actual restaurant that they attached whatever pyrotechnics to, and but then it was a set. It was they built a set for it,
Hmm.
huge
I'm
set.
just thinking of some of the outside shots. So I think it was Patterson's Falls they went to with the bridge. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah,
if you remember that. Yeah.
yeah, at the beginning, yeah, they went through the Holland Tunnel, and I guess they're either heading from New Jersey into New York. I think they're heading from New Jersey because you see that big Paul Bunyan side roadside attraction kind of thing. That was there when I was a kid. That's been there a long time. That's Route 46 in New Jersey heading towards the Holland Tunnel. And at that, I guess in the when David Chase was writing the show and growing up, that's the direction he was coming from to go into the city, and that's what he saw. That tunnel, you hit the tunnel, you come out, and you're
Yeah.
just a Midtown.
A brilliant intro, isn't it? It's probably one of the best intros ever, isn't it, for a
The
TV show?
songs were so perfect, and it wasn't written for the show, but it sounds like it was. It might as well have been. Um, yeah, yeah.
The
There's some.
song as well, that woke up this morning. Yeah,
I
that
woke
was
up
a
this
great
morning, and
tune.
that was just a song that either David Chase probably and heard somewhere, maybe through Stevie Van Zandt, because they collaborate on a lot of picking the music. I think at times. David has final say in everything. And his
Yeah.
choice, his taste is perfect. Is impeccable. It's perfect for the show.
Of course, Artie Bucco is a chef on the show, and food was a
Yeah.
big thing on The Sopranos, wasn't it?
Food, you got a bunch of Italian actors and Italian producers and writers. Um, yeah, and you could still get your hands on some pretty good stuff back then. Especially in that we were in Queens, we were in Long Island City. It's like, um, but there was an old Italian neighborhood still, in that area. I don't know if there is anymore, but our lunches were fabulous, and even at the table readings, they always catered it. It was Food was a big deal. I did a play with Chaz Palminteri once. And Al Pacino was the lead in it. It was a great cast. But Chaz Palminteri would bring in food. He'd bring in like a fruit basket, or he'd bring in cold cuts or something to all the rehearsals. And we'd sit and eat. We'd talk and eat, pick grapes, and yeah, food was a big deal. Even in the theater, they're like, okay, let's eat.
And of course, in your restaurant, there's a lot of scenes that happen in the restaurant, isn't there, to do with the show?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot between him and Tony. They have a history. They grew up together, and it's kind of it was probably more of a symbiotic relationship at one point, where it looked good for Artie to have all these popular guys in there, the neighborhood guys, and great for Tony. It was his place where he was comfortable with someone he trusted, and yeah, a lot of stuff happened there. He got his hand burned by Benny in the later seasons. Yeah, a lot of back and forth with Charmaine, who's a wonderful character and a great actress, Catherine Narducci, who you guys got to meet, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was great speaking to Catherine.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and there was a lot of, it was, I got lucky because I got to work with James Gandolfini a lot
Yeah.
because of the relationship in the script. And, at first, you don't know. You're like, oh, hey, hey, Michael, you're here too. Michael Imperioli. Like, we've been in a lot of independent films and plays and things together, and it was just fate. Like we're looking at each other, going, "Are we here?" So exciting. It's really great times, and it was usually like Artie was having some kind of drama, a crisis, and Tony would kind of straighten him out and comfort him at the same time. And that was all old James. It was just right for the characters. It was right for their relationship. And yeah, there was a lot of that. Like when Artie had a crush on Adriana.
Yeah.
There, um, they had a stunt man because he's supposed to slap me in the face. It's in the script. And we're out on the sidewalk smoking a cigarette before the take, and we're quiet, and I turn to James and I say, just fucking just slap me. Just fucking slap me. And he goes, I knew you were going to say that. And he, we said, we're just going to do it ourselves, man. We got it. His hands are this big. My head hit that post behind me and it rung my bell. And it happened like 14 more times till we got all the coverage. So just let that be a reminder. If it's a small scene and, you got a stunt man, think about it.
Yeah.
It was beautiful anyway. It did make me cry.
And of course, in the first series, Tony
Oh,
blows up your restaurant, doesn't he?
yeah. Yeah, because he thinks he's helping me out. He thinks he's helping Artie out because there was going to be a hit on Pussy Bumpin' Sarah, and that was a different Pussy. There was Big Pussy and Pussy Bumpin' Sarah. I guess that's right. And oh, I think Uncle Junior was going to do it. God, what a wonderful character.
Oh,
Dominic
yeah.
Dominic Canese is
He's
he's
still going strong as well.
he was actually in that play that I was talking about with Chaz Palminteri and Al Pacino. Him and Al are good
Wow.
friends.
What a
He's still
cast.
going strong. He still performs. He sings in public a lot.
Hmm. Because he lives in England now. He lives in Surrey.
Oh, he moved back. His wife passed away a couple of years ago, I think, and his kids, live here, so he moved back to be near them. And he also told me he's learning to cook, you
That's
know,
nice.
because he lives on his own, so he's cooking for
Yeah, he
himself.
sings at old people's homes now, old folks' homes, to get their spirits up. And
Yeah,
he does a one-man show as well, so
he
he's very
does.
busy.
Yeah. Well, that's a great thing. I didn't know that. That's a great thing. That's a great service he's doing there. Yeah, and he sounds great. I mean, I remember going to see Tony Bennett, and he was on in age. He was in his 80s easily by that time, and he still sounded like he always sounded. It's like
Hmm.
some of these old guys, these old timers, they just know how to sing. Dominic has a great voice, speaking voice and singing voice. He knows how to use it, and he displayed that in the show a lot. He's fantastic. Him and those scenes with him and Livia together, him and Nancy Marchand.
In the nursing home, yeah, fantastic.
She was just amazing. So
She made me laugh so much on that show. And there's a
yeah,
scene with you and her,
yeah,
obviously at the end of series one, and she says, "So, you didn't blame Tony for setting off the fire?"
yeah. You know,
And it's just so
that,
funny.
that was one scene I got to do with Nancy, and in between takes, because back then, now everything's pretty quick with the technology, but back then, we were used to shooting on film. And you have to light the room. If you turn the camera around, you have to relight. So there's a lot of downtime. And back then you could smoke in the hospitals, I guess, too. So we were kind of, we smoked a couple cigarettes. And she was reading the obituary of like an acrobatic family from Lithuania or something like that. And it was going on for a long, very entertaining. And when I went around and took a look at what she was reading, it was just like it was ads. It wasn't even print. It was she was just making it up for my benefit. She was incredibly creative and talented, and she was really lovely and excellent at playing a total devious character.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah.
she was fantastic. Yeah. So obviously it was very sad that she passed away, and I think she probably would have been in it for much longer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and she loved it too. She loved doing it. She loved playing Livia. She was like, no one else would give me this role, and she just ate it up. She was fantastic.
Yeah, and obviously, when you find out about this, you then confront Tony at the Bada Bing, don't
Right
you?
with the gun, you're with the rifle, right? That was we had worked together a couple times, but that was the first scene of any kind of emotional depth between the two of us, and it was the first, that was the way we kind of got to be friends. When you're like, hey, that was really great, man. You're really good on that, and you say that to each other, and Yeah, I'll always remember it for that. And also that rifle was heavy, man. You're holding that up for a couple of, 2 hours on and off for 10 minutes, 5 minutes for a take. It gets heavy and your arms are going to shake a little bit. So I didn't have to really work on that part of it. That was real. That was natural. And that's probably what would have happened to him anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Because,
And in the
yeah,
story, I'd say Artie is probably Tony's only real friend in terms of not being in the life, isn't he? Really?
yeah. I think there's some parallels between him and really Dr. Melfi in some ways, in that they might try to get through to him without fear of retaliation, you know. So Artie could throw that piece of prosciutto on his face that time at at the house, and
Get away with it. Yeah.
they're like brothers. They grew up with it, They grew up fighting and running around and being crazy together, and family is always family. It's always like family. I mean, that cast was like a family. We just it just made sense that we were all together, you know, and uh, and we felt it all the time. It was really, I mean, usually working experiences are positive. They're usually a lot of really wonderful people on, actors and production and crew and everybody. But this was really as good as you imagine it, as good as you can imagine it. That's what I got to say about it.
And it had such longevity, the show, didn't it? It went on for a very long time.
I run into people that say, who you look like? You look like Artie Bucco. And I say, yeah, how old are you? Oh, I'm 19. And it just blows my mind that and people even know my name. That, hey, Mr. Ventimiglia, just want to tell you, me and my dad are big fans. We watch it all the time. I'm like, how? So it's a new generation, you know? My kids, I used to bring them to the set, and they had to wait to watch the show, till, well, my youngest, she started watching it probably around 12 or 13 or 14, 12 or something, she was into that kind of stuff. But yeah, the kids that were younger than my own children are coming up to me and still talking about the show. So yeah, just it's remarkable. Fucking incredible. A lot to be grateful for. And when I'm somewhere and someone comes up and recognizes me, it's kind of like that extended. It might as well be here in my neighborhood. It could be. It's just somewhere else. It's like familiar. It's really a pleasure.
And you talked about it a little bit earlier, but the scene of yours I really like is when your character beats up Benny for a credit card scam
All
in the
right.
restaurant. I was rooting for Artie in this one actually because I thought that was crossing the line.
I felt it was crossing the line a little bit in terms of how violent Artie could be and how fit he was in a fight. But at the same time, he did pull a tablecloth off the table, and I mean, he does have a temper. He did pull a gun on Tony, so he's one of those guys that he had to fend for himself. And sure, Tony looked out for him, but not all the time.
No.
So uh, he probably was capable of that. He just didn't show it a lot because a lot of times people play against what they really like, or somebody like Artie. I think about what he was like as a child. It's they had somebody that played him in the prequel. I think a young kid. Yeah. Um, he probably really pampered. I don't know. Spent a lot of time in the kitchen, doing other things, and not always hanging out, with the tough kids. Once in a while, but when he had to go, he had to go. You
Hmm.
know, that's what I think.
Yeah.
It's funny, after reading for Tony, which I hadn't even really read the script at that point. I wasn't going to go in, and Michael Imperioli said he was going to go in for the audition, and another friend of ours who ended up on Orange is the New Black, Nick Sandow, a real close friend of ours, collaborator. Um, he didn't go in, but he said to me, you never know, John. And I did. I went in, and you never know. And it's crazy. It was just uh, it's really surprising that suddenly, like, it was like it seemed like overnight that this has such an appeal, such a wide fan base. It was hard to kind of get it for a little while, for a while.
I think it's also the dark humor of the show. I think that's one of the big pulls of it as
Oh,
well.
hilarious. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, David Chase, I'm gonna say, I'm sure everybody knows it, but there's nothing really that went on that he wasn't okay with. I mean, that's his story, and and the way that he told it, and it's brilliant. I mean, I just think it just was at the right place at the right time, and it was real. And I can't really speak for a lot of other uh, television shows because it's all kind of different now, a little bit. The business is constantly changing, it's natural. But to shoot in that way, with a cast like that, an extended cast like that, that was always interacting, in and out of the stage, um, our lives were interwoven, Still to this day, I talk to some of them pretty regularly.
That's good to hear. And what were the read-throughs like of The Sopranos?
Oh man, we laughed a lot, ate a lot, laughed a lot. But you never know who'd be coming in, some fabulous guest star, like Annette Bening or something, You're like, oh hi, I'm Annette, I love you on the show, And wow, Annette Bening, she's a really cool lady and great actress. And you just, and the longer that we get to know each other and work together and we're around that table, it's might as well be Sunday dinner somewhere or something, James Gandolfini would probably get a piece of bread flying or something, like used to happen at the Emmys and SAG Awards, It was a, it was a pretty rowdy bunch, we were a pretty rowdy bunch.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the scenes with your wife, Charmaine, who we've already spoken to, the actress, Catherine
Yeah.
Narducci. She was really harsh on Artie, wasn't she?
She just knew because she knew, she knew Tony, obviously, from their friendship and that her and Tony, you know, had a moment together or whatever they had. And yeah, she's a smart Italian lady. She's like, no, no, you don't. You know what happened. You know why that's happening. You know, Artie just, he's not that he's giving him the benefit of the doubt, but he's giving the situation the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe this will work out in my favor in some way, But she's not willing to take any chances.
Hmm.
Yeah, she was tough, but she loved him. You know.
I felt like your character always wanted to achieve more than he had already, didn't he?
Yeah, because he sees what these guys have boats and I mean his best friend has
Natural.
a wad of cash in his pocket all the time and ladies, you know. Yeah, he was a civilian.
And I also love that scene with you and Tony and his family at the end of the first series, where they
Oh
come to your
yeah.
restaurant and you cook the meal for him, don't you?
Yeah, that was a special night in general. It was I think it was during it's like right after 9/11 or something like that. Like everything had been shut down for a while and it was like our first night back and we did the rainstorm and getting in there and David Chase was on set that night. That was the first season. Pretty sure, yeah. And he was around for the whole thing. He was in there. We were in a little restaurant and we were all sitting at the bar in between takes and talking and getting to know each other still. David told us a lot of really fascinating stories and shared a lot with us that night. And it felt just like it looked. Felt like a little shelter in the storm that night, you're starting to realize like something really special is going on. That was that night that we shot that.
And the ending of the show at the time was very controversial,
I
but I
don't know
think,
why.
but
I
now I think many people consider it to be a fantastic ending, don't they?
The song, I was on the subway just earlier today, and there's performers that like do dancing, acrobatic dancing on the subway, and that was one of the songs that was playing.
Don't
I was
stop
reading
believing.
the paper, and I looked up, it was like blaringly loud, and it was that song. And what? I was thinking to myself, David and his wife liked that song a lot. David and Denise Chase, and he picked that song, and I was never a who's that, Rush or something like that, or
Journey.
Journey. Yeah, Journey. I was never like a Journey fan. I was already like too old to care about that shit. Especially like Journey. I mean, they were kind of mainstream, but I've come to really love that fucking song, man.
Yeah.
And today I really appreciated hearing it. Usually I'm like, God damn, really on the subway, man? But all right, this one's okay.
But in terms of an ending, it's fantastic because people still talk about it today, don't they? What did happen? What
He
didn't
said it in the
happen?
pilot. He said, if it gets out that I'm seeing a shrink, I'm gonna get a bullet, whatever jacket, full metal jacket bullet in the back of the head. I don't know what got out or what happened, but it was time to go. It happened to a lot of people, you know.
And of
Sammy
course,
Quintana, like of all people, like the
mm,
biggest of the big, probably somebody close. He was cooking, somebody's going to clip you. And business is business, I guess. I don't know that world personally, but I know enough of movies and to live in Brooklyn that, you know, to me, that was, he got hit.
that's how you took it. Yeah.
And what better way to end a series that could go on forever, really, in in minds, and hearts. Black, boom, cut it.
Yeah. And
Wait,
if he did die,
of
um, Tony, I think it was nice you didn't see him get hit, if I'm honest.
course not. It was, there's something really kind about it and something kind of brutal about it at the same time. When it went black, yeah, okay, maybe it was over for Tony, he's dead. What does he know? But it ended for all of us that love the show.
Hmm. And I've seen that with other characters from other TV shows I like, and it's never something good to watch as a viewer, really. One of your favorite characters being taken out. It's not really.
No, I've been taken out. I mean, hey, you get a chance to act, it's all right, do something physical. But it's not that for me. For me, it was just that was the end of the show.
Yeah.
It was the thing to grieve about, whether you know it or not. Like, packing everything up. Like, where's that painting going to go? What's going to happen to the painting of the Vesuvio? I should have offered to buy it for $10 or something. But yeah, you pack it up and it's over. Show's over.
Because it was a big part of your life, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for a lot of us in the cast, it caught us in these really formative times in our lives, like people having kids or getting sober or like going through, these amazing changes, you know, in their 30s, in their early 30s. And I don't know, I guess so. It just was at that time where everybody just was, yeah, just
Sadly, the actor who played Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini, passed away, and that must have been so terrible for everybody.
yeah, it was it's hard to explain. I think I fell on the floor when I heard it. Michael Imperioli told me. Um, yeah, well, I the last time I saw him, I thought he looked great, and that was just a couple of months before that. So I don't know. When it's your time to go, it's your time to go. But somebody with his charisma and his generosity and his kindness and his talent, that smile. Everybody knows that smile. You know. Um, that was a wonderful thing to have shown at you in real life, you know? Yeah, so you know, he's missed. He'll always be missed. You know, he was our leader, really, I'd say, you know.
Yeah,
He took on that responsibility and it was a lot for him. You know, you the whole I mean Edie and you know the Michael and but James, you know, as Tony Soprano, it's carrying a lot on your shoulders, man. It's amazing. It's a complete honor, but you know, it's taking on a lot. You
mm.
know, we all revolved around him, you know, I guess, you know, and that's he'd say the opposite, but we'd all say the opposite of that, I think, you know. I
Yeah,
would.
yeah. I listened to a book that you narrated about Tony Soprano. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I did, you know, I did a couple of books on tape and I think his family reached out to me and yeah, if somebody's going to read it, it might as well be somebody that knew him. And you know, I think there was a couple of times where I was like, you know, that no, I don't know about this part right then. They're like, no, if that, no, you know, that's why we have you, you know, like, so, you know, do the best you can, you know, and, uh, you know, we grew up not too far from each other. And, of course, we didn't know that at the time, but it makes a lot of sense, you know. Um, our families have a similar background, you know, same part of Italy. And, yeah, he was just, you know, he was just so generous as an actor and as a person. You know, if the, you know, you have your your side of the scene, you know, and they're like, okay, we're gonna turn it around now, and he's like, hold on a second, John, you all right? You want another one, or no, we're okay, you know, or thanks, yeah, I could use another one, you know. He's that kind of guy, you know. That's all. That's a lot. That says a lot. That's a very certain kind of generosity. But he
And
had
if
the power to do that.
and if James didn't sadly pass away, do you think they would have done a movie?
No, you know, that's the weird thing. I think if we were going to do it, we would have done it before that. I think that him and David Chase both felt kind of burnt out from all they put into it, which was everything. And I think they were both ready to just kind of let it go on, you know, from there. And, you know, I would have gladly done a movie. I think it would have been fucking phenomenal,
Mm.
you know, but uh, we have enough I have enough to reminisce about.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think wasn't there 6 series in total?
Yeah, over 10 years. Because we took breaks sometimes. We took a break for 9 months in between shooting one time. Everybody just didn't know what was going on, you know? But
And how long on average would it take to film a season?
oh, a season. Well, there was we were it wasn't like regular network. So we were 12 episodes a season. That's why there's only 50 something episodes, 56 or something, or it's like the honeymooners. It's almost the same amount. He did the same thing. He left after one season, but he shot 50 some shows. Could see why he was burnt out. Um, yeah. Uh, but towards the end, you know, there was only 6 episodes in the last season. That was strange too, you know, but I think they just, you know, it started out that each episode took about 10 days to shoot an episode. And then it went to 2 weeks. And then it went to whatever you need. Whatever you need. Helicopters, what do you need? Anything. You know, HBO was just really happy with, you know, David could have anything he wanted. And so he's like, I just need time to write and shoot without feeling rushed.
Hmm.
I think it shows.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the show got so big, didn't it? So I suppose he could demand whatever, really.
I mean, I personally, I've met Paul McCartney, Bill Clinton, and they both let me know they were fans of the show. So, you know, I heard like Fidel Castro was a fan back then, you know, like, yeah, the show was big.
And what do you think was your best scene as Artie Bucco?
You know, I really enjoyed being in the hospital bed when he tried to kill himself, and 'cause a good friend, Steve Buscemi, directed that episode, and Michael Imperioli wrote it. So I'm surrounded by good friends that I'm working with, and so I have a real soft spot in my heart for that. And when Artie says, "Take the restaurant," and then after he accuses him of, knowing that this was going to happen, um, he says, "Take the restaurant," and Tony grabs him and says, "Suicide, suicide," and he starts to cry. He's like, I'm sorry." That's probably my favorite scene. I remember getting undressed to get to the hospital gown, and James Gandolfini going, "He's got the body of a 10-year-old." He's young and young thin dude, man. He was a big guy, man. He was a very imposing figure, big man.
And did you used to watch the show when it was on?
At the beginning, I did a little bit. You had to wait till Sunday night, and I had a new family at the time, and we had just moved into a new house, just kind of around the same time, and yeah, that was really exciting. New environment, new house, new show on TV on HBO. Um, but then not so much, not a lot. It took me a couple of years to see all of them.
Yeah.
So
Well,
sometimes people would come up to me on the sidewalk or somewhere and they'd say, "Hey, what happened to Carmine Lupatesi or something?" Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I might have seen it, but it would have been a long time ago.
yeah.
But some I didn't see for a long time, and I think they're impressive as ever. You know, like the last 3 episodes.
Hmm.
It took me a while after. It was actually my daughter sometimes that would call me into her room and say, "Dad, look," and she'd show me a scene that I was in or something that was going on. She just couldn't believe it. That, you know, what a kick for a kid. To watch your dad on TV in a popular show. But yeah, it took me a while to watch them all. I think I wanted to savor them, maybe. I watch things late sometimes. Somebody's like, "You ever see that show called Seinfeld?" And like it was probably in the last season when I started watching it. You know, I've seen
Hmm.
them all now, but yeah, I'm a late bloomer when it comes to like picking up on things that are popular sometimes.
Was it also because you may not like watching yourself act? I mean, some actors are
Oh, I'm a
overly
critic.
critical.
Yeah, I'm kind of critical. Like, oh man, if I would do it this way, you're always exercising. I mean, I am. I do a lot. Kind of always still working it out. So I think you get better or figure things out but yeah, not excessively. I can sit back and enjoy it, especially with watching me and Artie and Catherine sometimes. Or
Yeah.
all of it, all of it. But yeah, in general, not just Sopranos, but other films and other things. I tend to be critical and it could even be of the way it was cut or something, or it could be anything technical. It could be the lighting. Who knows? You know, but my mind is always like working.
Be interesting to know how many scenes that didn't make the show that were filmed. That would be quite interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to see that clip reel. That would be great. I could think of a few myself, man. There was one where I think he was introducing a Native American, Indian, who ran a casino, and Tony was introducing him to Artie at the restaurant, and I went, how you doing, or something like that, and we all cracked up, but because it's a comedic moment, but yeah, that wasn't in there. Um, it was just a reaction, but yeah, we cut up all the time, man. I mean, that group of people was hilarious. I mean, Tony Sirico is he was really standout character, in life as well. But a lot of people were, just a lot of fun to be around.
And what do you think was the best episode? It must be a hard question.
Yeah, no, I couldn't say. I watched the last episode with Michael Imperioli and a lot of the cast, James Gandolfini and Steve Sharippa and Tony Sirico, and it was a bunch of us. I think even maybe Lorraine Bracco might have been there. And you know, in general, people were kind of angry. Vince Curatola. I mean, I don't know. There was a couple of people that were like, "What's this? What the fuck is this?" And me and Mike were like, "It's brilliant, right? Isn't it amazing?" It had a mixed, but I love the I love the episode a lot. That final episode, I think it's
Mm.
brilliant. That whole thing in the diner and the whole episode, the choices of music, Dylan, "It's All Right, Ma." You know, there's a lot going on in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to the diner because I did the Sopranos tour and you get
Oh,
to
you
visit the
did?
diner. So that was cool because it's just like the show, isn't it? It's exactly the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the is I don't know if it's still there if, because a lot of them were closing down. There was a lot of those that type of diner was so popular. I think Robert Frank, the photographer, probably made them extra popular with putting them in his book, But so deco, art deco, and it was just such a great place to eat, And that right there in the show, that was so New Jersey and so that part of New Jersey that it was part of David Chase's life and all of our lives, and anybody from New Jersey, especially. But they had diners like that in the city and all around the all around the country. But you don't see many these days like that.
No, I thought it was the best part of the tour actually.
Oh,
That and going through the New Jersey Turnpike. That was really cool.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah.
me anyway.
Oh, yeah, the turnpike. Yeah, right. Yeah, that was that little. Now they used to just throw a quarter in that basket over there, but yeah, that's not there anymore. Um, that basket, because whatever, everybody's got Easy Pass or some digital thing going on. But that's part of the beauty of that drive into the city. That was like it was a rite of passage. Going from New Jersey to New York, you're going to do your business. You're going to do whatever you. For me, I was an actor. Everybody on the show, or people that came from New Jersey, like James Gandolfini and Vince Curatola. Uh, there was others, I guess. That rite of passage, like coming into the city, getting the light at the end of that tunnel, and it's where the action is. So the same thing with Tony Soprano. He's leaving the suburbs, and this is where the action is. It's so appropriate for the beginning of the show.
Yeah. And Tony, like Artie, he's always trying to get to the next step, isn't he? He's never happy, is he? He always wants to get on.
Yeah, of course, be a good earner. Everybody wants to do that, but there's a way to do things without stepping on toes but he knows how far to take his power. That's why he survived as long as he did, I guess. And I don't know if that's very long. I really don't know. I don't know if that's old for a mom got to get whacked. His kids were, I guess, pretty grown, kind of grown up, but not totally, right? He was pretty young.
Yeah.
It's usually the case, probably. Usually you don't get to be old.
Was you ever worried about being whacked on the show or?
I'm sure he wouldn't be surprised if violence erupted when he was in the area, but he would never partake or start it. That wasn't his job. That wasn't his business. His was to protect his ass and get home to his wife and kids, and his wife and kid and get back to the restaurant the next day. It's not for him. That's
Yeah.
why, if anything, that was a big, that was a big step for Artie to take there. Because Benny was, he's a connected guy on top of everything. But I guess, you know, certain relationships, I really don't know. I'm trying to guess. Like, if you knew somebody, you knew his mother, like, Artie probably knew his whole family. Probably knew his grandmother. Probably could tell him, I remember your grandma, and now you do this to me, you're ripping me off. I mean, on top of that, with a girl that I think I'm in love with.
That was
Uh,
a funny scene. Yeah.
Emotional cat, man. Yeah, that whole thing. Like I told you, I thought it was a sitcom at the beginning. So I was like, yeah, he would have a thin mustache, like a restaurateur, like my grandfather might have, and um, and it turns out like, yeah, the show's funny because people are funny. Characters are funny. You're just being, even trying to be serious, they're funny. That's the thing. It's like serious business, but then when Paulie Walnut says it, it's funny. It's fucking funny, man. You know? Or Christopher, or Livia, or Uncle Junior had some hilarious lines. Yeah, it was a funny show, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember David Chase calling me into his office one time. And showing me a video of like actual Italians in Italy, like using their hands, gesturing with their hands, like all that stuff, because he loved the way that Artie uses his hands, It's very Italian thing, I guess, or just a very human thing for certain people. But he really got a kick out of it. I mean, it really crack him up. Yeah.
I do also remember you in Blue Bloods briefly as well.
I did. They hired me first. I did a couple episodes as an undercover detective named, had a weird name. I forgot the name. I can't remember the name. Then they made me the chief of police for a season, and they kept that same name, which wasn't an Italian name, but they changed my first name to Dino. I was like, it's hard enough. I got to wear a cop uniform, which is not comfortable. Let me tell you, you can never. Let's see, you can't fit it where it's comfortable. You can't sit in a cop uniform like comfortably. And then you're calling me Dino? Who came up with that name? Where'd you find that? Oh yeah, my name was Steve Arbogast, and then they changed it to Dino Arbogast, which is like a weird Dutch name or something like that. But Dino. So Tom Selleck used to go, "What do you think, Dino? What do you think, Dino?" While I look out the window. Yeah, it's different. It's different than the Sopranos. There was a certain kind of, they gave you a certain kind of looseness to discover things, And most TV isn't that way. That's like they're on a clock. Come on, man. Let's block it out. Where's the camera going to go? What you're going to do that? That's great. Okay, and the camera's going to go do this. Then we're going to do that. Okay, good. Let's go. You know, and Sopranos, we got time to rehearse. We got to kind of, because we're all stage actors. We all grew up. That's how we. That was our acting classes. Was all theater. So we all came from that same background. We rehearsal was important. You don't get to rehearse too much on a lot of shows. In my experience, there's not a lot of rehearsal. It's mostly like where your body's going to be, which is okay in some ways, but sometimes you want to work something out, or you don't want to give too much away either, so there's always that going on. You just want to work it out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to do this. You're going to do that. Yeah. You're going to put your hand in my face like that a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Okay. You know, everybody knows what they're doing. But we all were so in tune with each other. I felt that way. I knew me and Michael already were because we had worked together before and we went to class together and we were, close friends. We even subletted an apartment of another actor, another actor in the class for a while. That was because he lived in Mount Vernon, New York, and I was from Bergen County in New Jersey. and they were both close trips to Manhattan. But um, yeah, we didn't live in the city when we first met. You know, we moved in after. Yeah, neither one of us did. Yeah, until after. So yeah, but we just the chemistry was instant. You know.
Yeah. And are you a good cook in real life as you were on the
Yeah,
show?
yeah. My mother taught me how to cook. You know, my kitchen's over there. It's big enough for me. You know. Um, yeah, I cook. My kids are grown up. Um, but I used to cook when they were little. I used to cook all the time, every night. You know, that was house smells nice and you got good food. You know, but my mother, who's from Sicily, she still has a heavy accent. She's still with us. Um, she taught me how to cook when I moved out of the house. And she used to like, well, when you're a kid in that kitchen, they pick you up, they sit you on the counter, and they're like, "Come on, help me peel these, open these." Everybody does that with their mom once in a while, you know. Love that shit. You just pick it up, just seeing them do it over and over and over. Yeah. So I got when my kids moved out, I kind of stopped, but it's just not as good eating out once in a while, But so I'm like, you can do it. You might as well do it.
Yeah.
I, I think I'm better than most places around here, to be honest with you.
That's
For
good
my
to hear.
good. Yeah.
And was Artie Bucco your favorite role, your best role?
Well, he's the one I got to kind of probably flesh out. He's the one I got to play the longest. So yeah, yeah, I got to discover a lot about the character, as I went along and developing, him, and so definitely, yeah. I mean, I love the theater. I love plays because basically you're spending the same amount of time. Where if you're doing a role on a series that lasts for 10 years, you cover that in 4 months in the theater with all the rehearsing you do. So it reminded me of a play. Or, you know, it's as satisfactory as doing a play because you're getting to experiment, getting to do that work and collaborate and be an ensemble together. And um, that's what we were, an ensemble. And we won Best Ensemble. I have the card. It says Cast of the Sopranos for the Screen Actors Guild Award. Um, and yeah, that's what we were, an ensemble, because we got to work together over and over and get to know each other and know where, and we already knew where we were coming from. Those casting directors did a really good job.
And how often do you get stopped in the street by somebody?
Every day, every day. Sometimes you don't know, like somebody might be pointing it and you're like, oh, I live in Brooklyn, so I mean, it's New York. There's a lot of fans here, second, third generation fans. People that never want to bother you. They're like, but they wave at you anyway. Why don't you say hi once? I don't want to bother you, but you do this, right? You're still saying hi, right? But I really appreciate it and enjoy it. You
That's
know,
good to hear.
it's a nice feeling. Sometimes people want to kind of grab you by the arm and say, say hello to my mother or my sister on the phone or something. You're eating or something. But nah, people are great. I love it. And then, you know, in court, like in jury duty or something, they'll be like, "What are you doing here? Get out of here, man! You don't have to do this." Um, it's like one big family.
Great. Well, thanks a lot for joining us on the show, John.
Great being here. Nice to meet you.